Hello and good morning. This is Andrew Foss, and I'm on the line today with Laura Walker. We wanted to get together and have a discussion about the lunar phases. So that you know, today is Friday, August 9th, 2019. We happen to be in the first quarter phase of the Leo cycle. And what the first quarter is all about is stepping out and taking action. We wanted to take some action with this, so we're recording about it. And what we want to do is talk a little bit more about the lunar cycle and what it means to all of us in our daily lives. So with that, hello, Laura. How you doing?
Hi, Andrew. I'm doing very well. Being on the line with you and recording again is kind of like old home week.
Definitely like old times. We should do this more often. It's always was always my favorite time every month doing the lunar cycle because it's something I like to pay attention to.
Yes, and the way my life and schedule has been, it's been hard to be able to plan for a time and then be able to do that, but maybe we'll be able to get back to that. But at any rate, I'm just so glad that we're finally getting to talk about something that, you know, probably I should have done 10 years ago.
As I say, as I've been writing more and more about the lunar phase, I've had this stuff written and rewritten, 10 different times over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's more often than not because I'll have a question myself and I won't know where to find it, and I'll go to 5 or 6 different sites and they're written by 5 or 6 different people, and I can never get the entire story about it. So I think that a lot of my reason for wanting to do this was to put it all in one place so anybody could find it.
Well, I'm so happy to do that, and as I said, I've been derelict in that and not doing it sooner. The daily report and just the maneuvering of things has kept me busy, but it's absolutely time to do that. So let me begin.
Fantastic.
Following the moon phases and the way I do it is very much in line with the Native American traditions. And partially this is because it's based on natural cycles, the cycles of the sun and the moon. And so when we begin to follow the moon phases and the cycles, we get on a different type of timing, and we're more in tune with a natural time. And when we understand what that time is about, we can work with the energy instead of against it.
Exactly.
So and so please feel free to jump in anytime, Andrew.
Okay, sure.
You know how I get going. So following the moon phases is kind of like following a map, but it's also kind of like a growth chart. So each month we have a map. At the new moon, we get a map of what the way the cycle is laid out, and each moon phase we get a new piece of the map. And so when we understand, this is what we're doing and where we're going, we can create and do it in a more natural way instead of willy-nilly and just kind of like going for it. We can actually, use some wisdom to apply timing. So when we know the nature of each of the moon phases, we're working with them, and we understand there are good times to do things, and then more challenging times to do things. So when we understand kind of the course each month of the way things kind of go, we can plan for it. And this is why I always talk about it the new moon. The new moon is about setting intentions and for that month, what you want to focus on, or if you have a goal. And then you follow it through with each of the moon phases. And if you do that with intention, eventually it becomes second nature. And you kind of know, it's this moon phase. I'm not going to try to do this right now. And it isn't a control thing. It's just more of a rhythmic thing. It's just about kind of getting on a different harmonic. So I never think we should be slaves to any of the astrology or to the planets. The information is there for us to be creative with. It's like having a medium, an artistic medium to work from.
Mm-hmm. It kind of goes with one of my favorite astrological comparisons, and that's comparing everything to surfing. sorry, that was my childhood. And when you go in, you've got a lot of different things facing you. I think that with astrology, it's paying attention to all of those energies that people don't pay attention to. Sometimes it's just not a good time to go in the water, and you need to be aware of it, or if you are going to jump into it, be aware of what you're facing.
Right, and this was information that the ancients lived by, and then the native peoples lived by. It was just a natural thing, and it was understood. Mm-hmm. So we begin. The first moon phase is the new moon phase, of course, and then there are 8 moon phases, and so each time the moon goes 45 degrees away from the sun, we change moon phases. And so when the moon has gotten 45 degrees away, we switch, and then when it moves 45 degrees from that point, we switch to the next one, and so on. And at the new moon, it is like planting a seed, okay, when we're thinking about this growth chart, the way we're going to grow an idea for the month. And by the way, it's most effective if at the new moon in Aries, each year, if you have like kind of your goal or intention for that year, and each month you work that same goal. And I've worked the same kind of goal several years in a row, because it's just a matter of re-imprinting. If you have something in mind and you're just reinforcing it each cycle, each month, and each phase. So the new moon phase is the time to begin and initiate and to project out what we want to create or accomplish or see or experience. And it's basically a bid for power, as the shamanic world kind of talks about. It's like, I'm putting out there that this is my seed that I'm planting, and I'm beginning anew. So it's the time of the month that we want to hold high intention that our seed is going to be prosperous, and that in the map analogy, that the map we're getting is taking us where we need to go. So and you don't want to have, you wouldn't want to plant your seed with negative thoughts, and that's why it's more important during the balsamic phase and the new moon phase to have a positive attitude. If you can't be positive any of the other times, be positive on those 2 phases, because that really is the primary time to try to make something succeed. So the new moon phase, it's about beginning, initiation, starting over, releasing, or starting fresh. The past has been released. That there's no pull from anything negative. It's brand new. And after I talk about the nature of each of the phases, I'm going to talk about how applying the knowledge of what phase you were born in can help you in your life and help the world at large. So that's what we're going to get to next.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest piece of the whole lunar phases that I wanted to get to the heart of. So I'm glad we'll be talking about it. Yes.
It's good to kind of have an overview and understand how the map goes each month, how the growth goes. But then there's specific ways you can apply it. So we have the new moon phase. Everybody kind of understands that. It's a new beginning, a new cycle of time. A new Sabian symbol will come in for the month and dominate the energies. Mm-hmm. And then we move to Crescent phase. And Crescent phase is the time when forces that stand against you or stand against the empowerment of humanity will try to crush your seed or your goal or intention or your dream, whatever it is that you have put your mind to. And this is just it's really a natural process in that it serves to strengthen the goal or intention or wish, because it provides a little resistance, and it's really the universe is saying, really, when it comes down to it, is this meaningful to you or not? Are you willing to put in the effort that's required to do something new? Because something new, you have to have a push of energy to initiate something new at the new moon phase, and then at Crescent, comes this big challenge. The keywords are challenge and perseverance. persistence, because anything new like that that's going to shape the fabric of our experience is going to be met with resistance at first. And so during crescent cycles and crescent moon phases, we're always challenged to not give up and to not struggle. It's kind of like you just get up and you keep going, you keep moving forward, knowing that the energy is challenging you and just testing you to see, do you really want this? It's really what it is. The map that you get for the crescent phase is going to take you on more like rockier terrain in order to get you further down the road. It's like you're going to either be stopped cold right then and there, or you're going to continue forward. So when we continue forward, we come to first quarter moon phase, and this is like you just mentioned. It's step out of your comfort zone, take action with what you're doing. So you can see how.
Before we get to first quarter, though, I think that my take on crescent moon phase, if I follow back on the whole surfing, with new moon you decide you're going to go surfing. With crescent, you're walking into the water and you realize it's 55 degrees and it's cold as hell. You've got to decide whether you want to go for it or not. It's kind of that challenge. It's like, are you going to do this? And you make a choice, and and you know there are things working against you. And you know, anybody who's gone into the ocean, you immediately hit the wow. This is 25 to 35 degrees lower than my body temperature. Do I really want to step in?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So there's so many metaphors or ways to explain it, but that's such a great one. And then at first quarter is basically paddling out.
Yeah, you're there.
Mhm. And so with first quarter, we are taking some action. So you can see how if you're trying to take action during crescent phase, and if you're just like really going full bore, you could really get tired. Like if you just stayed in the water there, just like kind of freezing and, you know, just were fighting, you know, just negativity with the whole thing, you might not go surfing. But it's important to know. It's important to know
you're
that
there, you're out, you're swimming.
Right. So at first quarter, we're doing things that move what our goal or wish or intention forward. It's very task oriented, but it can be getting past that resistance. If we're not motivated enough, you know, or if we don't have enough energy or willpower, first quarter can be pretty challenging, and we can give up at that point. But understanding that first quarter is about pointing us in a direction and taking a direction. We've already decided where we want to go. First quarter is on the map is showing us, okay, take these steps. Take these steps and take this action to get where you need to be.
Exactly.
It's definitely an energy about breaking away and growing, because it is that whole step out of your comfort zone type of thing. So the more, this is how we can overcome that natural tendency for inertia, is by understanding, okay, it's first quarter moon phase, so I'm supported in taking action. And if I hold on to this and I just, don't drop my idea, keep moving forward, we trust that it's going to work out. And you can get better, like when you follow the moon phases, you can get better at, if you have trouble stepping out of your comfort zone, because you can test yourself and it's an opportunity each month to overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes, as we do it more often, we build our trust, which is what takes us to the gibbous moon phase, where the key word is trust.
And one thing for people to pay attention to, if you're also looking at the moon phases by watching the moon in the sky, it's called first quarter phase. I got into a discussion with someone online where they're like, no, that's half moon. I'm like, no, it's called the quarter phase. You see half the face of it, but it's your quarter phase, and they got real upset about it. So if you're looking in the sky and you see half of the moon as you see it, you're at a quarter phase, whether that's first quarter or third quarter. You're seeing 1/4 of that circle.
Yeah, that sphere, supposedly. And there's so many words to describe this, like a lot of places don't use, like sites or just information sources, Gibbous, and they're like, what is that? Or disseminating, you don't usually hear that. So there are a lot of ways that people describe the moon phases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Gibbous is...
If anybody's watching the posts, I kind of go through a lot of those explanations as well, putting it all in one place.
Yes, you do, Andrew, and you do a great job of putting in the astronomy with it, which, I don't really ever really do.
I haven't explained waxing and waning yet. It always confused me when I was taking astronomy myself.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of a different way to think, and that's really what the moon phases are. It's a different way to think, and it's a different way to time your life. Okay, Gibbous phase, as I said, is the time when we are asked to trust. The map says to us at this point, are you going to trust? And it's the most magical of all the phases. Okay, so it's the phase before the full moon, and it's a magical infusion. Miracles happen, just fabulous. It's a fabulous time, and it is the time that trust is needed. Mm-hmm. It's also the time when we are preparing for the full moon, like we're kind of preparing to gain a realization. And Gibbous is a very spiritual phase. We kind of touch home base of spirit during Gibbous phase, and it's a good idea to let your creativity flow during Gibbous phases because, like I said, it's very magical. Mm-hmm. So we come from Gibbous to the full moon, and the full moon is, of course, about illumination and realization and fulfillment and clarity, for sure, and experience. This is when we've planted that seed at the new moon phase, and at full moon phase, that plant is flowering. Okay, it's coming to its full purpose there. Everything that was initiated at the new moon phase comes to its fullest expression. It doesn't mean it's its final expression, and it shouldn't be its final expression, but it is the biggest that things get. And this is why during full moon phases that we have full moon fever and that people get kind of wild, because it's basically blinded by the light. It's full light, it's full amperage to bring things to their most fulfilled point, to be the grandest that they can be. We reach the apex, the highest point of the month.
I think it's funny because if you take a look at the most of society, the only time they ever pay attention to the moon is during the full moon phase, and I don't know that people are really in tune with anything other than that. They're like, oh wow, what a beautiful full moon, and I look at it and say, wow, that's a day and a half off. Like, yeah, you're getting there. And the funny part about it is, if you pay attention to the phases, I mean, for me, it's just one of 8, and very specifically, it's a whole lot more like the new moon than any of the others. And I think I pay attention to it in the last 3 months. Our family's had 2 trips to the emergency room. One of them was during new moon, and the other was during full. Isn't it shocking that we end up at those times in places like an emergency room?
Yes, it is. And the full moon is the opposite of the new moon. So it is that. They are symbiotic in that way. And so whatever was basically intended or whatever was going on in the world at new moon, it comes to its fullest expression at full. And then we begin the wane. So we've been waxing and getting bigger all the way to full, and now we begin to wane. And doesn't mean that the energies lessen as far as like the map, we aren't getting as good as stuff with our map. It just means that month has reached its peak as far as the push of energy with it. There's still two weeks of energy happening, but it spins in a different way, where it was the first half of the month, it's very much of an out push and an outward projection. And then when it comes to full, then it begins to come back in. So like a wave, right?
Yes.
when we come to disseminating moon phase, this is when our minds and our ears become very active, because disseminating is exactly what it says. It's about sharing of information. It's about communication. It's networking. This is when we want to be paying attention to background noise and overheard conversations and little synchronicities here and there, because this is the way the universe brings information into us through other people and our sensory experiences to give us what we need to continue that hope, that goal or wish or intention that we set in motion at new moon phase. Now we're going to get a feedback from the universe via other people and our surroundings. And so it's the time when we want to really pay attention, but it's also the time when we want to share. So it's like, if you're not sure whether you should, if you're not like a person that is like a sharer, that really doesn't talk, share their ideas or something like that, disseminating moon phase is the time that you really want to do that, because everything is interdependent, and you don't want to censor yourself or hold yourself back during disseminating moon phase, because the universe may be using you to deliver some key information to people. So it's always a good idea during disseminating moon phase, if you feel like you need to say something, or it's just about being open enough to share and with a loving heart, because your experience, some piece of information comes to us during disseminating moon phase that helps keep the ball going. And so on our map, the map that month will have us, during that moon phase, will have us lots of places and doing lots of things. So it's a good idea to take advantage of invitations and opportunities, or, if people ask you to do certain things. If it's disseminating moon phase, it's a really good idea to do that, because the way that you're going to get information is through the source field. And that means you have to be kind of out there with people, not out there, not out there, but...
That being said, I mean, for all of those people who aren't real, into sharing and things like that, it's a time when just the energy is kind of pulling it out into the open. And you may not, it doesn't mean that you need to go out and be in a crowd, but be willing to share with who you can, because it's kind of calling for it.
Yes. I
mean,
and
I like to think of it as it kind of like with the other phases, this is the time where it's like kind of calling it out of you, and don't be afraid at that time to let it go.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so during disseminating, we either take on board the information, and if it's not for us, do we leave it be? It isn't like we still have choice. We still have free will in all of this. But it will give you more information. The information that you need, or that we need to, with anything, usually comes during the disseminating phase. Then we come to third quarter, and this is the time when we realign or revise, reorganize, rearrange anything that hasn't worked out with our hope, wish, or intention, or our goal. We see that whatever hasn't worked out, that's providing us information on how to change it, how to revise, and make it better. Okay, so sometimes people get kind of down during third quarter phase, because naturally they feel like they should have gotten farther with something, even if they aren't intentionally following the moon phases. It's just natural to feel like you failed a little bit during third quarter. And part of that is because third quarter is ruled fully by Capricorn and halfway by Aquarius. And Capricorn always wants us to succeed and do the right thing and to take responsibility. And that's like the main thing in third quarter, is revise and realign and take personal responsibility. Okay, this hasn't worked out, and this hasn't worked out, and I didn't do this. Instead of just throwing it all away, that's when we have to just kick back in and hit it again, and hit it from another angle. So it isn't a giving up. It isn't, the time to give up. Even though the month is almost over, we take the best of what we have, and we can apply it the next month, but we want to change it in some way based on what's happened to it. Because if you think about it, we've had this seed that we've planted and it's flowered and it's done all these things, it's like, okay, now what happens? Are you going to accept the responsibility for the things that you didn't do or that you did wrong and then just, decide to do it differently or do it better? Or are you going to give up? See, each moon phase we're challenged with, are you going to give it up? Are you going to give it up? It's big and it's harder or more pronounced at Crescent moon phase, but each phase, this is just the way that creation kind of happens. It's that duality of the different octaves of things, the high and the low, in order to make something, right? We have to have the positive and negative charge, and then something kind of emerges. This is the way manifestation happens, and this is why.
And the ball's kind of rolling at that point. It's up to you to keep it going and adjust it, make it so that it's right for everything. Right,
and are you going to grow? Are you going to grow it? Are you going to make it better? Are you going to leave it? You just leave it there to wither. And that's up to us. Sometimes sometimes it's better to let it go, and start again. And that's kind of the beauty of the cycles and the moon phases, is that there's always another day. The sun always rises. There's always another moon phase, and there's always another cycle. So we don't lose our opportunities. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And then we come to what is technically the last moon phase of the cycle, but which is really half of the cycle that's leaving, the month that's passing away, and halfway the month that is getting ready to begin, the new upcoming month, because we start with the new moon phase again after the Balsamic phase. The Balsamic phase is the dreamy phase. It's ruled by half of Aquarius and all of Pisces, so it's just like very lofty, and I've said over all of these years that if I ruled the world, everybody would be off nobody would be like working unless they had to like keep it going, but we would be off during a Balsamic moon phase. And in indigenous tribes, it's a step back. I mean, that's when the people pull back and they go inside. And this is the time when we release. So at third quarter, we took responsibility for what didn't work out, and we tried to make that better. We tried to rectify it and revise it. And at Balsamic, we can then decide, okay, what do I want to leave behind, and what do I want to carry forward into the next month? So we can just pitch the things that didn't work out, or the places that we fell down or didn't meet our own expectations. We leave that in Balsamic phase, because Balsamic phase is about the clearing the decks. It's about the map telling you to stop here, breathe. You're going to pass go again in a few days to start a new cycle, and clear it out and get it cleaned up. This is the time. It's like the best time of the month to clean your house, clean your space to prepare for a new moon. Just tidy up loose ends, things that, it's things you don't want to have like hanging over your head into the next month. It's a time of release. It's the time when we're preparing the soil. We're weeding everything out, all the things that didn't work, and we're getting our soil for our seed ready for the next month. Or maybe it's, like a cutting of the plant from last cycle if we're going to continue on with the same intention or goal. So Balsamic is this dreamy time, and it's the time when we're closest to spirit, when the veils between the worlds are thinnest. And it's when the universe, God speaks to us, we just get in our ears, it's just like right there. And if we are inside and connected, if we're inside of ourselves and have that connection, it's a really lovely time, because it's light, it's airier, and it's very fairy-like. And so it's transformative. It's this very nebulous time of generally Piscean type of energy that flows, and it flows us into the next cycle. So
by getting through here, here's where you start to see the difference between where a natural cycle and an unnatural cycle, like the Gregorian calendar that we follow, they don't match. I mean, because, at the end of the month and you're kind of paying attention to the days of the week, but with this cycle, you're not looking at the same day of the week as you come to the end or you come to the beginning. So that's why taking a look at this and paying attention to it completely takes you out of the Gregorian way that we've been so long.
Yes, it really does. And the other thing that is really nice about it is that we have almost 4 days to work with something. So it's like if you have a goal or a task that you need to complete and it doesn't get done on, like the first day of that moon phase, it's basically like get it accomplished during that moon phase itself. So it's like you kind of can become a little bit more of a master of your own domain and you're controlling of your own time when you get on a different time system, because you understand that there's another value of time that can come in. This doesn't mean you're responsible with, doing things, but it's like understand that when you're working a certain type of project or whatever, frame it within moon phases, perhaps as opposed to days, because the moon's going to change signs, other planets will be aspecting in. So if we can expand out how we're measuring, it kind of can take the pressure off. I hope I'm explaining that the way I mean to. Is that making any sense?
It's making sense to me. So, we can look at it later. But I think that you're hitting the nail on it. You're doing good.
Okay. Let's now start in with what your own natal moon phase is and what that means. So, if you don't know the moon phase that you were born in, you can contact Andrew and he will run that data for you. And the way that you do that is you can just go to my site, oraclereport.com, go to the data page, and you can just, it's a menu selection, and you can check that one that you'd like to find out what moon phase you were born in. Because this is going to be your strongest time of the month, your own moon phase, so to speak. And so that energy is more native to you. It's kind of like you're on duty. It's like, I'm up. Okay, it's my phase. So if you can work the highest octaves of that moon phase, the better it is for everybody. So for me, I'm crescent moon phase. Big surprise. Crescent moon phase is concerned about survival and about working through struggle. But it can be, you have to learn as a crescent moon phase person that you have to learn not to always do things the hard way. You don't always have to struggle. And it's about, when you start to feel like you're struggling, step back. But the gift is in the phase, because what we get from the working that phase in the highest energies, we get the gift of endurance with Crescent. We learn persistence and perseverance. And so when it's Crescent moon phase, we understand, okay, it's just the time of struggle. I just have to hang on and let this kind of pass. But people who are Crescent moon phase are strong during that time to help with the struggle. So if we're handling our own struggle, then it's easier for everybody else. So I jumped ahead there. Let me go back. New moon people. And new moon people are the idea people. They have ideas for days. They are not necessarily the people that complete or bring the idea to fruition, because generally that requires other people's involvement with most things. This is why groups work, because you've got people that were born during different moon phases, and each has different aptitudes and skills and that are native to that phase. And when you put them all together, put all the 8 phases together, then you've got something, right? And you're covering the whole everything.
Oh, yeah.
New moon people can feel like they're always jumping from one thing to another, or something piques their interest, or something shiny captures their attention. That's okay. There's no reason to beat yourself up about that if you're a new moon person. That's the way it's supposed to be. It's like throw everything out there and just go for it. Because the new, we need the spectrum of things to be implanted, to be conceived of during that moon phase. So it's important for new moon phase people to not hold back, because it may be 1 in 10 of your ideas that works, but that one is going to be perfect for you. And so new moon phase people, I always say to them, don't think this is a negative thing that you have ideas and ideas for days. It just means you have to be able to find the people that can help you make those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Crescent moon phases, like I said, it is about helping people with the struggle. It's about bridging that tough first initial push when you try something new and you don't give up. Crescent people can be considered negative, but it's because they are the ones that instinctually are in the survival mode for the fellowship of humanity. They're the ones holding down the hardest things. It's the strongest moon phase with that, because it requires a lot of endurance to actualize it at the highest octave.
Mm-hmm. First
quarter people, these are the people who are always on the go, always, going, doing, getting things done. They like to travel, they like to get out and about, and they're not comfortable just kind of sitting around. These are the people that take the ideas and they're like, oh, we can do this, and they move it forward, and they begin to like delegate things out or find people that can do certain things. They're very good at organizing and getting the ball rolling, really, just like a first quarter moon phase. You can see how it parallels. Gibbous people are the most magical. They manifest out of thin air, basically. If they think it, it just happens. And so their minds are very powerful. And so if you're a Gibbous moon phase person, you had to be more mindful than other moon phase people to make sure that you're maintaining a positive attitude, which generally is not as hard. You're Gibbous, aren't you, Andrew?
No, I'm disseminating.
You're disseminating. Okay. I was thinking of you in that magical Merlin-y way.
I can live in the magic.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get on that subject. I was going to go into solar cycles, but that would be like way too much. But the Gibbous people are just delightful because just miracles form around them. It's very effortless for them. It's like if you're going to be born under any of the phases, that's the best one in my opinion. Full moon phase. These are the people who are full on. Okay, they push it. They're going to make it happen. You can't really stop them. They are very persistent. And full moon people can be like a full moon. It can be just so much energy and so much that they have to offer that it sometimes has to be moderated. We have to learn a little self-regulation to not overpower or overwhelm things too much. Okay, and disseminating moon phase. So these are the people who are the natural networkers. They're the communicators. They orate. They bring people together, and they're like, oh, I know of this and that, and it's the whole, like a network. This is networking, the sign of networking. They're very good at communicating ideas. And they naturally tune in to the exact thing that people are thinking or that they need to hear. Mm-hmm. Disseminating phase, the only rule down to it is how you can say things, because people are naturally discerning what another person needs, because that's just the nature of the energy. And it's really like a channel or a conduit for spirit. And so, but sometimes, like if there's no filter, or, if we haven't learned yet how to be gentler with our words, it just will come out really fast.
Oh, you're speaking here.
I'm sorry?
You're speaking to the choir here.
No one is surprised.
For anybody who's looked at their chart and hasn't paid attention to it, I remember when I discovered that I was born in the disseminating phase, it was a real eye-opener to the way that I was. It kind of really spoke to my heart. It's like, oh, well, that now makes sense.
Yeah, it's like another little piece of the puzzle of who we are, about, the map to our true nature. It just provides another piece, but it's a big piece. It's,
Oh, yeah.
Once you have it, it's like, wow. And it kind of gets you, like, you find your place where you fit a little bit within the natural order. And then third quarter people are the ones that fix. They fix things. They fix what's gone wrong. They make things better. They get things on their proper course if they've gone off track. Can be a little bit bossy if it's not careful. But this is the energy that is like the closer. It closes up things and gets them kind of like ready, or like an editor. And if you're writing a book, these people get things in ship shape to make sure, that they're like the best they can before it's shipped out. Quality control like that, quality assurance kind of people.
Yeah.
Just making sure that things are right. Now, one of the things that can be a challenge if you're a third quarter person is getting upset when people don't do what you think they should do, or what's right, or what they were supposed to do, or what their responsibility was. It can be hard in that way to get along with people if there's too much judgment going on, because it's the natural time when we judge what's happened and then make changes accordingly. And so it has to be, it needs to be done gently and with love. Or, the situation kind of demands whatever it does. But in general, it's better to, to point out what can be done differently or better, than to just get mad about it.
I mean, it's a feedback cycle, and some people don't always want to hear it, but it's a necessary part of it.
Yeah, and really it serves, like I said, to make things better. It's really about making it better for everybody, and if we could understand that, we would all be in a much better place. And then Balsamic, this is, again, these are the dreamers, and this is the person who people may perceive as not having as much natural energy. They may be just quieter or just more mellow. It's because they're kind of always halfway in the spirit world and tapped in there. And it's kind of difficult to walk in both of those worlds. It is pure beauty and pure creativity, the Balsamic phase. It's like the best time for art, or to do something artistic, or, go to an art show or a play or a concert or anything like that. It will always be experienced so much more deeply during Balsamic moon phase, because it's just such a creative time, and it just stimulates our minds and our hearts, and it's just phenomenal to create beautiful things. And also for clearing out. This is these people are really good with helping people get over things like grief or trust issues. It's Balsamic people kind of guide us. They guide us into the next cycle, the next new moon. And it's the loveliness that can come from Balsamic. I could just go on and on and on about Balsamic. I really could. I love it. But a lot of people don't, because they just feel like everything kind of stops. Well, yeah, but that's the reason for it. It's like stop the old one and start a new one, because there were things that built up that we don't really need to take with us when we go forward.
I mean, it's a natural time to do it, and you can get in tune with it, whether it's your thing or not. But, it's nice to kind of live in that moment when you've got it.
Yes, it is. And because it's such a detached energy, because it's detached from physicality in a lot of ways, right? The moon is like becoming non-existent during that phase. It can be hard for Balsamic people the world can be very harsh for them, and scary even. And so that's just because there's a natural tendency to isolate with Balsamic moon phase energetics, because it's the time when we step back and we kind of, like I said, we go inside of ourselves and we have this deep connection. It's the spiritual moon phase. Mm-hmm. So there's really, I'm a Pisces, and so that Balsamic is ruled primarily by Pisces. but Pisces just gets kind of a bad rap a lot of times, but Pisces energy is beautifully creative.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the moon phases in kind of a nutshell, trying to bring together the information in a general way as an introduction to maybe follow the moon phases differently and understand your place in the cycle and in the fellowship of humanity, and what your job is, what you have to do as part of your responsibility of being, part of the fellowship. And the more we know about that, and the more we can exercise that, the better everything is. Moon phases are, they're very powerful. The information, the knowledge of them is very powerful when you start to use them. It's, okay, I've been saying for 10 years, whatever moon phase it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, that's great and all. What does it mean? What do we do with this time? That's why I always try to write the keywords with the daily reports. Like, keep in mind what you're doing. So I hope that this makes the report a little more usable or user-friendly, and I hope that some beautiful things will be created from maybe a little bit better understanding of what the moon phases are.
I definitely think so, and thank you so much for kind of giving us this information dump about it. And it's very much what I was trying to do with with the series of articles I'm writing about it, because I've been following them for years, and I think a lot of the people with the Oracle report have known it, but may not have been able to integrate it in their lives. I think it's something that drives me nuts at different times, because you're not paying attention. And all of a sudden something hits you. It's like, well, wait, what moon phase is it? I've been watching this every day, but what does it mean? And oftentimes we forget as we're in the middle of our lives, and then we're in the middle of it and think, wait, what just happened? I think paying attention to the lunar phases really focuses your mind on what's going on around us in ways that we're not taught to in any way, shape, or form in today's society. In fact, they've gone out of their way to kind of erase it from our minds that things can actually be happening around us. And paying attention to this gets us more in tune to what's going on.
Well, and one thing I didn't mention is that basically it's like we exchange with spirit every other cycle. So basically, like at new moon, we express out, we project out, and then at Crescent, universe pushes back in. It's like the inhale, and then at first quarter, we exhale out, and then at Gibbous, the spirit flows back in. And so if you can kind of get in that, that rhythm of that, of, oh, my turn, oh, spirit's turn, it takes a lot of the pressure off. I've been living by the cycles for 17 years now, and what it has done, I can say to me, is like it's enabled me to see a bigger picture, because we can look at other cycles. Okay, we see we're in today, and then we're in a moon phase, and then the cycle within that, we're in a month, a cycle, and then we have the cycles of the year. And so it's just a way to box out, kind of like either the layers of the onion or like a Russian doll. It's just each segment has its piece, and it enables you to expand out your mind and just see the horizon a little bit more widely.
I know as I've been writing the Astro Gardens blog and actually working in my garden, paying attention to the phases really kind of brings gardening into a new perspective in just the way that plants are growing. It all makes sense. It is a natural cycle that we're going through as we're putting things in the ground and as we're working with nature. And I think people nowadays laugh at the Farmer's Almanac. I can't wait till it comes out every year. I pay attention to everything that they write in it, and spending time actually being in tune with it.
Yes, because if you're going to plant something, you're going to plant a garden or plant a plant, or if you're going to start a project, you wouldn't want to start that during the third quarter phase.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time to start something new. That's when old things are completing.
Yeah.
So remember, if things aren't going your way, the new moon will come and you'll shift up. So I hope everyone can utilize this in some way. Please let us know. Let us know if you'd like Andrew to run that information for you. And thanks for your time today, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you very much. And remember, you can find us at my website, astrogardens.com, and on Laura's, the oraclereport.com. Both of them are listed in the comments. But they are, where we are kind of following the phases and giving this information. So I thank everybody for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.